Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Allison Meitel, pediatrician. It is April 12th, 2020. Happy Easter. Because we're all home waiting around with the coronavirus pandemic, I thought this would be a great opportunity to put forth a video about an important topic, and that is how to get a baby to sleep through the night. So when babies are first born, they tend to be awake much of the evenings and asleep a lot of the time during the days. So it can be very hard for the parents who are up all night caring for them. 3 weeks of being up all night with a newborn, and parents are mentally and physically exhausted. So it can be a great thing if families are able to get a baby to sleep through the night early. So how can this be done? Well, it's actually a very simple process that is used to accomplish this goal, and that is called sleep training. Sleep training can be broken down into 2 steps. Step 1, again, very simple, is just to get the baby used to going down for naps or bedtime with the eyes open. So in other words, if a baby falls asleep on a bottle or on the breast, and then that baby gets put down already fully asleep, then unfortunately, when the baby arouses the next time, they're going to need to eat again to be able to relax themselves. So whatever condition is set when a baby first falls asleep is what they're going to look for and need to get themselves back to sleep when they arouse. And babies arouse all night long, so that term sleep like a baby is a little bit of a falsehood. So to reiterate, step 1 of sleep training is to always put the baby down to sleep with the eyes open, even if they're just at half mast. If the baby's a little bit conscious, it's better than putting the baby down fully asleep. So how do we accomplish this goal? Well, if a baby is either nursing or taking milk from a bottle, happens to fall asleep and it's bedtime, what you should do is very gently try to arouse the baby, either by changing a diaper, tickling the toes, etc. And once the baby is looking at you, that's your moment to go ahead and put the baby down in a safe sleeping space on the back, either the bassinet or the crib. Naturally, once a baby is put down, it's possible that the baby is going to cry a little bit. It is okay to let a baby cry. It's not dangerous. The baby will not be psychologically damaged. What the baby will learn is that when they're put down into their crib or their bassinet, that it is their job to go to sleep. Now, of course, especially with a first baby, many parents, when they hear the baby cry, generally will run and pick up the baby right away to soothe the child, which makes complete sense. But in this situation, the baby is getting a little bit of an ambiguous message. So they're put down, they cry, and then they learn that by crying, they get picked right back up again. So the ideal thing to do is, if you're working on some sleep training, when you do put the baby down, is to allow the child to cry enough so that they exhaust themselves and then fall asleep. And usually with small babies, this doesn't take long, maybe 10, 20 minutes. And again, we should try to resist the urge to pick up the baby if what we really want them to do is to go to sleep on their own. So again, that's the step 1 of sleep training. What about step 2? Step 2 is the process of separating eating from sleeping. So as adults, most of us luckily don't need to eat to be able to fall asleep, and babies can learn to get themselves to sleep without eating as well. So the way I usually handle this is to advise parents to try to give the last feeding, the bedtime feeding, at least an hour before bed. You can do the feeding in a well-lit room where there's other things going on or there are distractions, so that the baby knows it's not quite time for bed yet. And then once the feeding has been given, in the ensuing half an hour, 45 minutes, you want to do some other stimulating activities, things like take a bath, read a book, sing a song. And then when the baby starts rubbing his or her eyes, looking crabby, that is again your moment to go ahead and put the baby down and to then leave the room and give the child an opportunity to get themselves to sleep. Now, when you are getting ready to put the baby down, it's important to not provide any aids to the baby, any sleep aids, because really the best sleeper in the world is a child who only needs his or her own body to get to sleep. So that means that things like rocking a baby or using a mobile or a white noise machine may all sort of be a disadvantage over time. The same thing can be said for pacifiers. Babies often will become dependent on pacifiers to use themselves or to use the binkies to fall asleep. and parents who find themselves running in and out of a baby's room to replace the pacifier once it is lost and the baby is angrily waking up looking for the pacifier. At that moment, most parents realize the pacifier has become more of a hindrance than help. Now, when babies are small, pacifiers do help with SIDS prevention. They can lower the risk of SIDS, so using a pacifier for a small baby is perfectly fine. But eventually, if a family does find that the pacifier is causing the baby to wake up in the middle of the night, then it is probably time to get rid of the pacifier. So just to reiterate, again, the 2 steps of sleep training are: number 1, this is right from day 1, start to put the baby down for naps and for bedtime with the baby being a little bit awake. Even if the eyes are at half mast, that's usually better than putting a baby who's fully sleeping down. This way the child gets to learn some self-soothing skills and begin to learn to put him or herself to sleep. That is step 1, eyes open. Step 2, again, would be to separate the process of eating from sleeping. So the last feeding should be given a good 45 minutes to an hour before bedtime. Do some stimulating activities in between. And when the child starts to get cranky, that is your moment to put the baby down. Now, one caveat to sleep training is that for some families, it is really unbearable to listen to a baby cry, especially if it's the first baby. So the good news here is that if this method of sleep training, which is otherwise known as extinction or ferberization or cried out, if you know from the get-go that this method is not going to work for you, that is completely okay. There's no need to do it this way. There are many other ways to sleep train a baby, some of which have a more graduated approach. For example, there's a chair method where a parent can be in the room on a chair that gradually moves further and further away from the crib. There can be methods where the parent gently pats the baby on the back, giving longer intervals of time for allowing the baby to cry. So if one method of sleep training doesn't work, it's okay, take heart, just choose another. The best method of sleep training is the technique that a family is able to follow through with 100%, and that is going to be different for individuals. So in summary, I hope everybody enjoyed this topic and found it useful. If you would like to hear more information about this, which is actually a fairly complex topic, feel free to take a look at my blog, www.abcparenting.blog. There is a blog post listed there called The Most Important Post in This Blog, How to Get a Baby to Sleep Through the Night. Feel free to check that out. And wishing everybody good health and good luck during these difficult times with the coronavirus. And we will see you on the other side. Thanks so much.